Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Ken Tapp. I am the CEO of Decentral Life, and today is our quarterly report update for all shareholders. We're going to cover our first quarter report, and I'll even touch a little bit on our annual outlook as we get about halfway through the second quarter already. So, thanks for joining me today. If you're new to our company, Decentral Life trades under the top stock ticker symbol WDLF, and we do focus on two sectors of the tech industry, AI and blockchain. Our business model is based on also two parts. One is a technology business incubator that helps other companies get through their growth stages. Sometimes that's an early stage, other times that's a mid or even a late stage now, which is what we're focused on going into this year. A lot of that I'll cover here in just a second as to why. And then the second part of our business model is to help companies digitize their securities or their digital assets in preparation of what we expect to happen sometime this summer, but certainly sometime this year as we wrap up the second half of this year. And that is that the SEC is going to provide clear guidance for companies and just folks in general, could be a real estate developer of the sort, to be able to tokenize their securities or digital assets and take those public. This is something we have focused on and become an expert at over the last 3 or 4 years. We have a set of tools that are decentralized applications that provide that service to our clients. And so this is the second part of what we are really focused on specifically this year, more so than the technology incubator. So with that being said, as I get into our update here, I do want to point out our safe harbor screen, which I have up right now. I will talk about things that are forward-looking. That could be everything from what I think the industry is going to do, how that would relate to any of the companies that are part of our program or even clients of ours, and certainly what that would potentially look like in the markets as it relates to our business model, which, as I'll get to here in our financials, is based on two different methods. One is, of course, revenue, as most companies are. We charge for our services. And two, we take security positions in our clients or our companies that participate in our tech incubator program, and those end up on our balance sheet as an asset. When those securities have a mark-to-market value, that increases, of course, the balance sheet. And in the early stage of those securities ending up on our balance sheet, that is typically at a par value. And so I'll get to that here in a minute as well as I go through the financials. And of course, through our safe harbor and our disclaimer, we're going to talk a little bit about what I think is going to happen in the securities industry. I just indicated that a minute ago with what I think is going to happen with the SEC in the second half of this year, but I'll also talk about how that relates to the markets in general and different trading exchanges. And so because we are so focused on blockchain and our blockchain platform and decentralized applications, as I'm doing my update, you may pick up on some terminology that alludes to the fact that I believe the future of the stock market is the token market. I think that we are well on our way into that. We've talked about that now for years. About this time last year, we put a video up that talked about the tokenization of securities and real-world assets, as well as commodities in the sort. And just this year, since the new administration has come in and replaced the leadership at the SEC, the leadership there, which is Paul Atkins now as the chair, is very much focused on this transition of off-chain securities to on-chain securities. That means traditional stocks in the stock market, as it has been operating for decades now, to the future of that market, which is going to be on-chain, and that's going to be digital assets, digital securities, and the trading of those on blockchain. So without further ado, let me go ahead and change my screen here. I'm going to uh, move over to my, let's see here. Give me just 1 second, and I will move on over to my other report here. You should see that now. Okay, so as you can see here on my screen, I have started right here on our balance sheet. Let me point out that for last year, our total assets on the balance sheet was just over $1 million. That was the first time that we've been able to exceed $1 million on our balance sheet. And of course, that is based off of revenue primarily. And then as we are finishing up here, I should say, as we finished up here March 31st, the first quarter of 2025, our balance sheet assets increased to $1,007,948. That is in part because of this asset that ended up on our books this last year, at the very end of last year, and that was the securities of both of the companies that we have in our tech incubator, or I should say, we're in our tech incubator, and that was our outdoorsman company and the Lycari company. Both of those companies had gone public through an acquisition of an existing public company as subsidiaries of that. And so those securities then ended up on our books. And of course, they are valued at the par value of those shares. There's roughly 18 million shares that were added there, a little bit more for one than the other, but about that for both of those companies. And then, of course, what we have is our cash flow. Now, we don't operate with much cash flow, and the cash flow that we do have has, over the last year or so, a little bit longer, has been mostly spent on legal expenses related to a couple of the lawsuits that we still have pending that we are working through. Let me get down to our lawsuits screen here, and we have got both the Crown Bridge legal case that we are still working on, and we still have our Lamoth legal case that we are working on. In both cases, we are vigorously working through those cases, and in one case we are a plaintiff, and in the other case we are a defendant, and so we will continue to work through those, and much of our cash flow will be spent on those lawsuits, just so that shareholders are aware of that. In the meantime, we will continue to operate and focus on our business model, which is to identify and bring into our technology incubator. As I get back up here to the very top of our business quarterly report, we will focus on being able to provide our blockchain as a service technology and our SaaS technology, software as a service technology. We can do that in a couple of different ways. One, of course, is the ability to provide just consulting on that technology and other technology that is out there that we don't have to license. And then, of course, the latter, which is our own technology to license. We are, of course, focused on being able to help these companies through their early, mid, and late stage growth. And as I just indicated with what the SEC is now focused on being able to provide for issuers here soon, is the ability for them to go and tokenize their own securities or assets. We have those tools as our blockchain as a service technology to provide for issuers. We have been working with as many as 30, in fact, closer to 35 issuers on how to structure their digital securities as that regulation and those rules come out, become more clear, so that they can go through the process of taking their own stock securities, digitizing those, and going public on a blockchain or multiple blockchains. If you've been tuned in to some of my updates over the last 2 or 3 quarters, I've also talked about the eventual new securities exchange in Texas, the Texas Securities Exchange. We are following that very closely. We know that has been spearheaded by both BlackRock and Larry Fink, and then, of course, Citadel and Ken Griffin. And of course, these are both big players in the U.S. stock market. For them to move forward with a business model to launch a Texas exchange just further reassures us from the information that we're getting back from the SEC on what the future of the market is really going to be focused on, and that is digitization of securities and real world assets so that those can also be traded publicly here in the United States. Until now, of course, there has been Coinbase primarily, but they had, until this new leadership of the SEC received a fair amount of headwind on their own business model, that has now turned into a tailwind for them. And that's exciting for us to watch. That means that just around the corner is the ability for traditional issuers on the stock market to, again, digitize their securities and take those public. And that is our expertise. And we are working with these 35 or so companies and growing on how to go about that. And that, of course, is a fee-based service of ours and then a licensing-based service of ours as well. So I just wanted to cover the basics here on this particular podcast to make it a little bit short and sweet. Of course, our report is out there for people to digest. Feel free to email us any questions on that report that may not make any sense. But as you'll see here, as I wrap up my update here, I am focused on this particular page, which does talk about on September 29th, 2023, the company did complete, I should say, a binding letter of intent with mjlink.com Incorporated. That was at one time a division of our company that spun out back in 2021, the beginning of 2021. And that company was going to be going public on its own based on all of the information and news that we were receiving from Congress at the time and for the years preceding that, that safe banking was going to be passed. I have had this question asked of me many times with this new administration in place. Do I still think safe banking is going to be passed? I personally do not think that safe banking is going to be passed. In fact, as we could see that the Congress had exhausted the ability to get that pushed through both the House and the Senate, it became pretty clear that there wasn't a future in the coming years. And this is dating all the way back to September of 2023, when we could see the writing on the wall that they were not going to be able to get safe banking passed. That is a big deal for that industry. That has prevented that industry from having access to banking and all of the other different financing services that every other sector, I should say, has access to. And so without that, it has really stymied the ability for the industry to grow like a traditional sector, even like the alcohol and beverage industry. And so what we began to focus on is a different path for that company to be able to go public. And that path is, in our opinion, to eventually be tokenized and go public with its own security token, as I just spent the last 10 minutes or so talking about. We have been waiting for what is now coming about with the SEC and being able to provide these rules and regulations, not just for clients, but also for ourselves. So MJ Link is going through this process of being remerged into Decentral Life as a division of it. It does have some decentralization application technology that needs to get merged back into Decentral Life so that it can officially go out here pretty soon, as soon as the SEC provides these rules and regulations for issuers to easily go out, or in an easy fashion go out and have access to other disclosures and all of the other things that would need to go into a security token offering, and then be able to provide it not just for other issuers, but of course for ourselves. So with the MJ Link company, we'll be able to do that. And then if you've been following us long enough here for the last number of years, we do have the WDLF token. And that token too will go through that same process of eventually being able to go public again with the technology that MJ Link has combined with the technology that Decentral Life has. And then both of those technologies combined allow us to go out with one licensing agreement to issuers to be able to provide them access to our decentralized applications and, of course, the IP necessary for them to go out and do their own security token offering. So it has been a long haul, about 3 or 4 years, going on 4 years this summer, in fact. And that long haul had been held up with a lot of head fakes from the previous leadership at the SEC that they were going to go a little bit faster in being able to provide these rules and this guidance for digital assets and the digitization of securities and the tradability of those securities to shareholders and investors in the United States. That got dragged out. It never happened, but here we're excited that it is finally happening. And so we are prepared, even though we had the hurry up and wait process for almost 4 years, we are now prepared to go full bore with that business model. And the good news is that we've been able to fine tune some of our technology along the way and make sure that when we are ready to go with these issuers, they will not be held up waiting on us and our technology. So exciting times here ahead. I will leave it right there because I do plan to have some additional updates that we'll do here before the end of this quarter, Q2, that will be really important to the growth of our balance sheet and all of the things that I just got done talking about. And in fact, we might actually have some of that news from the SEC that we can provide here in the coming weeks. So on that note, I appreciate everyone being great and patient shareholders with our company. And if you're new to our company, this was the best time for you to come in and jump on board because things are really going to start to heat up now. So on that note, I do appreciate everyone. And I hope that you have a fantastic week, a great Labor Day weekend that's going to be coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.